Welcome to Gymea Bay, and welcome to Lena, who's taking photos of everything. This is the suburb that I grew up in, and we're just doing a tour of it before we head off overseas swanning around. And Lena's never been here, so it's an exciting day for me to show her. So yes, so this is the famous to us, anyone that grew up in the Shire, or currently lives in the Shire for that matter. This is the Gymea Bay, the bay. And lots of memories here. I haven't been here for a number of years, a lot of years, and there's I can see already there's been some changes. Part of the boardwalk's missing. This building here, that's been there since at least the 1950s, because my brother, who was much older than me, used to jump off that building and into the bay. And my mother used to tell me that story. My brother confirmed it, but as wild as I was as a kid, I used to look at that and think, nah, that's crazy. That water is not deep enough to jump into from there. This is a dead low tide. This is the lowest tide that it gets, so the tide will have to change. And a couple of weeks ago, a storm rolled through here and destroyed the bars that have been sitting here doing their purpose for many years. As I say, my family's been here since the 1940s, or were here, got here in the 1940s, and my dad taught me to fish here. Could never catch anything, but this is where I learned how to fish. But the storms come through and taken all the net down, because below the deck there was netting, it went right to the bottom, and that's to prevent sharks from coming in. Because we do have sharks in Sydney. Sharks are a common thing, and people, if you don't have shark nets, will get taken. And those nets are gone, they've been destroyed, and also a couple of the pylons are missing. So that's why I was fascinated to see a motorboat in the Gymea bars, because in its entire history it's probably the first boat that's ever been in there. And that gentleman and lady have just telling me, I think they stopped for a toilet break because there's public toilets. And yeah, that's something for us, something for the history books, a boat inside Gymea bars, because they will definitely spend some money to repair these and restore them. They couldn't possibly not restore them. It'd be an outrage. So yeah, if you can imagine jumping from there into that water, granted at low tide, but the tidal level will be up to almost the deck height, but you can see the barnacles on the pylons where the medium tide is, but the high tide comes up even further than that. So yep, I suppose when he was 7 or 8 years old, jumping off there in the water, possible, but not something I would ever do. And that mud flat there is normally a creek, and in fact it is a creek, and I'm not absolutely certain if the council agrees, but we always called that Coonong Creek. And I remember as a kid, I tried to research, and I mean a kid, researched, because we did have some Aboriginal people that actually gave us some actual knowledge of the area back in the day, because past generations used to actually care about Aboriginal things, as much as they try to pretend that people of old did not. They definitely did. And that creek there was called Coonong Creek, and the meaning of Coonong Creek in Aboriginal, I'm reliably told when I was a child, was stinking water. Now I've tried to research it again, and that history's gone, the meaning of that, but it was definitely, that was the known In the 1960s and 70s, it was definitely known as the meaning of Coonong Creek. Gymea itself, I believe, is named after the Gymea lily, of which I'm growing one in the Gold Coast in my backyard to remind me of home. And there's a few other Aboriginal words that we knew the meaning of as kids because we were taught that sort of stuff. And this was my favourite part here. This is what was called the catwalk. That was just this area, this right up along here, was never maintained all through my young years. It has been rebuilt or timbered. The pylon's not original, but been rebuilt in that sense. And we used to, because it was never maintained, every second piece of board was missing, and it was the brave kid that used to run up along the catwalk to get into the water, because that's the main jetty section, and sometimes that used to be full with fishermen. Fisher people everywhere, for the modern terminology, but fishermen if you ask me. And sometimes as a kid you just wanted to get in that water, that deep water up there, and it is quite deep. I remember as a teenager jumping in and swimming to the bottom and actually touching it and bringing up some sand from the bottom, and that was quite an achievement. Really burst my eardrums, but it's surprising how deep the water is up there. But as you can see here, it forms a beach at low tide, but this fills up at high tide. So we very quickly found ourselves in the deepest, darkest bush areas where the famous Yowie used to live, or maybe still does. But today we're just walking along Coonong Creek, which is the creek that my house was very close to. So even though I lived in the biggest city in Australia, this was my backyard. Are you videoing me, videoing you?
Yes.
So Elaine just asked me who the person was with their face on it.
Like a queen.
It's not the Queen.
Well, a guy looks like one.
That's Captain Cook, the founder of our nation, before transgenderism was invented.
Oh, well, I think I had enough of the childhood memories.
So now you've got childhood memories in my life. Those are my childhood memories and you're taking them. This is the rock I used to jump up. So I used to climb up this rock here and crawl up there, and that was my shortcut. Yeah, so this is me now, and this is where I used to be. And that's the gully that the local kids don't even know is called the gully, but that's the gully. Way up in the distance behind me. Probably can't see it. I'm sure you can't see it, but way out there in the sand, the place out there called Kurnell. That's what it's called. How it got its name was Captain Cook first pulled in the Botany Bay. He arrived at Perth. When he pulled in, he said to one of his officers, he said, and well, actually, I should explain, there's a lot of marsh areas out that way, and a lot of rotting plants and that sort of thing. So it kind of smelled a little bit. Anyway, Captain Cook said to his officer, he said, So what should we call this place now that we arrived? The officer wasn't really listening because he was overcome by the smell. So, and as he asked the question, the officer went, Colonel! And that's how it got its name. Catholic wrote it down, and Colonel has been the name ever since. Here we are at North Cronulla. There's Dunningham Park, but I didn't notice that Dunningham Park still has its name up like it used to. So that's not a sign of the renaming of things times. Yeah, this is all changed. All this, other workers club, that's gone well and truly. These restaurants here are a beautiful place. You should have come here for dinner. That can't get much better than that. Sit in there, protected from the wind, which you have to be today because it's very windy. There's some building going on there. Always some building, but I was very surprised at how many old blocks of units still there from the 60s. Look like they really need to be changed. So we've got obviously a lot of rocks being added to the shoreline there. Because that there is what we used to call the wall, which was a good place to surf from, because I didn't have so many swimmers around that area. See, the beach looks smaller now that they've got all those rocks there, but I know they've had some really rough weather at times. Here we go along towards South Cronulla, the baths. Yeah, people of the old generations used to come up with good ideas. You know, they chopped into the natural stonework and created a swimming pool in the ocean. Beautiful. Here's a photo or a video of Lena taking a video of me taking a video of her. South Cronulla Beach. Yeah, of course, since I was a kid, they've shrunk all these beaches down to make them smaller. Yeah, everything's smaller now. Even the waves are smaller. When I was a kid, everything was bigger, including the beach. So that was yeah, in my mind as a kid, that was a big beach. Good to see Cronulla Pavilion survives, that's still there. Pavilion from the days when the ladies and the gentlemen would come down and get changed in the pavilion, go down for a swim in the ocean. But not sure what it'll be used for now. I'm assuming it's the home for the South Cronulla Beach Club, Surf Life Saving Club. Maybe not. This Bundina. That's Gunnamatta Bay, straight in front of us. Up and out there is Cronulla, which is attached to the city. All that far distance, which we probably cannot see at all, is the Kurnell. On the other side of that is Botany Bay. That's the open ocean. Go straight through there, you're in the open ocean. That's why it's so windy. And then this water here, you have to catch a ferry to get here by by water, so the ferry comes in here. This used to be a place just for holiday homes. My family's living over there in civilization would own a little block of land and they'd build a little hut, come out here and spend a week or two. That was their holiday destination. Things have changed, people are living here, surprisingly. Quite a nice little sandy beach, beautiful water. So that's Gunnamatta Bay ahead, and then there is waterways that lead to all the bays. Yowie Bay, Burraneer Bay, and eventually you get to Gymea Bay. Started off. Yeah, there's a lot more houses here than what there used to be. The beach here in Bundeena, and then yeah, it felt like we're the only person in the world here. Down up there, because we drove through the national park to get here. It's the only way to get here by road through a national park. It's quite a drive. 25 minutes, half an hour to get here from the other side, or you can catch that at the ferry. It's your only options. Yeah, so here we are in Orderly, which is the part of the national park. The part that this hasn't changed at all, this big beautiful grass area. That area over there with all the it's a big undercover area with tables and chairs, that was always there. So we used to come down here and have picnics if it started to rain or whatever, we'd all eat in those tables and chairs. This building here, they're having a wedding at currently, and that was not there in my memory anyway, but certainly not there for weddings. But the highlight was a little calm, quiet water area where you cross that way there. They still have them, where you hire the little rowboats, and you can come out here with your sweetheart and put her in the rowboat with you and get the oars out and row all along over there and all around there and around the corner. Sit under a nice big tree in the shade. The cockatoos. And yeah, thankfully this hasn't changed. They haven't done anything to change it in any way. So pretty much this is the way it was in 1879 when they established this and declared it a national park. And yeah, a beautiful spot. And there's the beautiful Lena, Lenchick, my darling, who I would love to take in that boat over there, one of those boats with the oars. And, so I think if it's still the same situation, I'd say when they're open they bring the boats over this side. There was only a couple of dollars, it wasn't much. It's probably $50 now. But yeah, quite a few times I've rowed a boat around here. And when I used to come down here with when I was in my early 20s and some of us were starting families, remember we all used to get together and come down here once in a while, get a football and throw it around. And I remember being proud of myself being able to kick a football up way up higher than that tree there, which doesn't look like that great a feat anymore, but at the time I just thought it was pretty cool. Well, that concludes our trip to My Sydney as we move on to another part of the world.